My name is David Whitehouse and I'm a journalist and author and screenwriter sometimes. Writing in English I think was the only thing I was good at school. I was terrible at maths, really bad at science. I kind of used to pretend I had all manner of nasty infections to get out of PE. But writing was the only thing that really kind of attracted me to it, and I think I did have a flair for it. I think the first thing I ever wrote, I remember being very young, maybe 6, and announcing to my parents I wanted to write a novel, going upstairs for an hour, writing one side of A4 kind of scribble, and that's where it came from. I think it was it's innate. If you want to write, it's innate. I studied as a journalist and I started working as a journalist in magazines and newspapers, but for me it occurred to me that I'd much prefer to invent things and make things up, and the world of fiction is so much more attractive to be able to build your own universe, which obviously you can't really do in journalism because that's lying. My first novel was called Bed. I didn't have much work at the time. I was working as a journalist and I'd just gone freelance, and I think often if you're a freelance journalist that means you're kind of unemployed, and I didn't have a lot to do and I didn't really have a reason to get out of bed other than to write, which was the only thing I was interested in doing anyway. So the original basis for the story was, what if I never got out of bed ever again? And I started writing about that, and that's where the story came from. Then I realised that was once I'd kind of created characters and a world around it, it was a pretty good symbol of larger cultural apathy. And I wanted to know what the most extreme kind of apathy would be, and that would be to stay in bed and not do anything for the rest of your life. Before I write, every morning or every day that I'm writing, I read 3 or 4 pages of a book chosen completely at random from my shelf or a shelf wherever I am, just to remind myself that writing a novel or creating a story or characters is actually possible. Because every morning when you sit and look at a blank piece of paper, and particularly if you don't know where you're going with it that day, it feels like an impossibility over and over again. So the act of reading someone who's done it, often better than me, it reminds me that it can be done, really. So I do that as a kind of ritualistic way of getting started. Writing a novel is a really hard thing. Writing anything writing your homework is a really hard thing to sit and do. If you were to write 3,000 words and none of them are good, and you had to delete them, that doesn't mean they're wasted. It means you needed to write them to get to what you were going to write. All of it's the process. There's no hard and fast way of doing it, but you won't get to the book unless you've deleted those words or messed them up or rewritten them twice or 3 times or 8 times. You need to get to the end, and that's all. That's the path. Advice to an aspiring writer would be, firstly, it's possible to write stuff and for things to happen to it, because before you've written a book or before you've written anything, you imagine it's not possible, but it is. Secondly, write all the time and write every day and write whenever you can, otherwise it's not going to happen anyway and you're only yourself to blame. And thirdly, read as much as you can, everything that you can, even if it's the back of a packet of cornflakes. Just read all of the time, learn things from it. It's the only way you'll kind of develop, I think, seeing what other people have done.